Tonight, we embark on a journey towards sacred rest. A journey that takes us beyond the noise of the everyday world and into the quiet sanctuary that exists within each of us. This is not a journey to somewhere distant or unfamiliar. It is a journey home, a return to the stillness that has always been there, waiting patiently beneath the surface of our busy lives. For thousands of years, seekers of wisdom across every tradition have discovered the same truth: that peace is not something we must create or achieve. It is something we uncover when we finally stop running, when we allow ourselves to rest, to let go, to leave the world behind, if only for a few hours of deep and healing sleep. What we will explore together tonight draws from the ancient wellsprings of human wisdom, from the Sufi mystics who found God in silence, from the Zen masters who discovered enlightenment in stillness, from the Roman philosophers who built porches of contemplation where the soul could rest from its labors. These teachings are not relics of the past. They are living truths that speak directly to the restless heart of modern life. So let yourself settle now. Let your body find its most comfortable position. Let your breath begin to slow. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to achieve. Simply allow yourself to receive what this time offers. Rest is not weakness. Rest is wisdom. And tonight we practice the art of leaving the world behind. The art of leaving the world behind, sacred silence in Sufism, Zen, and the Roman porch. There is a practice that the Sufis call khalwa. It means retreat, withdrawal, a deliberate stepping away from the noise and demands of the world to find what cannot be found in the marketplace. The Sufi masters understood something profound. They understood that we cannot hear the whisper of the divine while we are shouting. We cannot feel the subtle movements of the soul while we are running. So they created spaces of silence, caves and corners and quiet rooms where the seeker could finally stop and listen. In these spaces of withdrawal, something remarkable happened. The Sufis discovered that what they had been seeking in the outer world had been inside them all along. The beloved they longed for was not distant. The beloved was closer than their own breath. But this discovery required silence. It required leaving behind the constant chatter of the mind, the endless demands of the world, and the relentless pursuit of more. There is a story of a Sufi who spent 40 days in khalwa, sitting in a small room with nothing but bread and water. When he emerged, his friends asked what he had found. He smiled and said, "I found that I had been carrying the world on my back like a heavy sack. In the silence, I finally set it down. And when I did, I discovered that the world does not need me to carry it. Carries itself quite well. What I needed was to be free of the weight." This is the first teaching of sacred silence, that we carry burdens we do not need to carry. We hold tensions we do not need to hold. We defend positions we do not need to defend. And all of this carrying, all of this holding, all of this defending prevents us from resting in what the Sufis call fana, the dissolution of the false self into the ocean of divine presence. Across the world, in a different tradition and a different time, the Zen masters discovered the same truth through a different door. They called their practice zazen, sitting meditation. Hour after hour, day after day, the practitioners would sit in stillness, not trying to achieve anything, not striving for enlightenment, simply sitting, simply being. And in that simplicity, something extraordinary was revealed. The Zen tradition speaks of shikantaza, which means just sitting. It is sitting without an object, sitting without a goal, sitting that is complete in itself. The Master Dogen wrote that to sit in zazen is to drop off body and mind, to release the grip of self-concern and rest in what he called the self-fulfilling samadhi. This is not a trance state or an altered consciousness. It is ordinary mind, awake mind, mind that has stopped running and finally come home. There is a famous Zen story about a student who asked his teacher, "What is the essence of Zen?" The teacher replied, "When you are hungry, eat. When you are tired, sleep." The student was confused. "But doesn't everyone do that?" "No," the teacher said. "When most people eat, they do not eat. They think about 1,000 other things. When most people sleep, they do not sleep. They carry their worries into the night like unwelcome companions. To truly eat is to just eat, To truly sleep is to just sleep. This is the whole of the teaching. This teaching points to something we have forgotten in our busy, distracted age. We have forgotten how to do one thing at a time. We have forgotten how to be fully present to the moment we are in. We eat while working. We walk while planning. We lie down to sleep while reviewing the day and rehearsing tomorrow. And in this divided attention, we lose touch with the simple peace that comes from being wholly here, wholly now. The Zen masters understood that the root of our suffering is not in our circumstances, but in our relationship to our circumstances. When we are fully present, even difficulty can be met with equanimity. Even pain can be held in a vast awareness that is not diminished by what it contains. But when we are split, when part of us is here and part of us is elsewhere, even pleasant experiences bring no real satisfaction. We are like someone standing in a beautiful garden but thinking about the office. The beauty is wasted on us because we are not truly there. So the practice of sacred silence in the Zen tradition is a practice of return. We return to the breath. We return to the body. We return to the simple fact of being alive in this moment. And each time the mind wanders, we notice and we return again, not with force, not with judgment, but with the gentle patience of a mother guiding her child home. Now let us turn to the West, to ancient Rome, where a different but complementary wisdom emerged. The Roman Stoics, particularly philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, spoke of creating what they called a porch of the mind. This was not a physical place but an inner sanctuary, a space of withdrawal where one could step back from the chaos of the world and remember what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the vast Roman Empire, would retreat each evening to his private chambers and write in his journal. These writings, which we now know as his meditations, were not meant for publication. They were his practice of withdrawal, his porch. In these pages, he reminded himself again and again of the impermanence of all things, of the foolishness of being disturbed by what lies outside our control, of the peace that comes from aligning oneself with the nature of things rather than fighting against them. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the essence of the Roman porch. It is the recognition that while we cannot control the world, we can control our response to the world. We can choose where to place our attention. We can choose which thoughts to nurture and which to let pass by. We can choose to find our center even when everything around us is in turmoil. Seneca, another great Stoic, would set aside time each day for what he called retreat into the self. He understood that the demands of public life, the constant requests and obligations, could drain a person dry if they never took time to replenish. So he would withdraw, not from responsibility, but from the noise, not from life, but from the endless distractions that prevent us from truly living. In one of his letters, Seneca wrote about the importance of silence. In order to improve the mind, we ought less to learn than to contemplate. He saw that we are constantly filling ourselves with new information, new experiences, new stimulation. But we rarely give ourselves the space to digest what we have taken in. We are like people who keep eating without ever pausing to let the meal settle. The result is mental and spiritual indigestion, a kind of restless fullness that never truly satisfies. The Roman porch, then, was a practice of digestion, a time to step back and contemplate, to ask oneself the essential questions. What is truly important? What can I let go? What am I clinging to that brings more suffering than joy? These questions could not be answered in the midst of activity. They required stillness. They required the willingness to leave the world behind for a time and turn inward. Now, what is the thread that connects these three traditions? What do the Sufi khalwa, the Zen zazen, and the Roman porch have in common? They all recognize that we cannot find peace in the external world. Not lasting peace. Not the peace that remains when circumstances change. The world is too changeable, too unpredictable, too full of events beyond our control. If our peace depends on things going the way we want them to go, we will live in a state of constant anxiety. But there is another kind of peace. A peace that does not depend on circumstances. A peace that arises from within when we stop trying to control what cannot be controlled and simply rest in what is. This is the peace that the mystics and sages have pointed toward across every tradition. This is the peace that becomes available when we practice the art of leaving the world behind. To leave the world behind does not mean to abandon our responsibilities or to escape into some fantasy. It means to stop carrying the world in our minds, to stop replaying the past and rehearsing the future, to stop believing that we must fix everything, understand everything, control everything. It means to recognize that we are not the center of the universe, and this recognition, paradoxically, brings tremendous relief. When we let go of the burden of being the one who must hold everything together, we discover that things hold themselves together quite well. The sun rises without our effort. The seasons change without our permission. The breath breathes us without our conscious control. We are held by something much larger than ourselves. And when we remember this, we can finally rest. There is a beautiful image from the Sufi tradition. They speak of the heart as a mirror. When the mirror is covered with dust, the layers of worry and desire and fear, it cannot reflect the divine light. But when the mirror is polished through the practice of silence and remembrance, it becomes clear. And in that clarity, we see not our own small self, but the vast presence that has always been there, shining through us. The Zen masters use a different image. They speak of the moon reflected in water. When the water is agitated, the reflection breaks into 1,000 pieces. But when the water becomes still, the moon appears whole and perfect. Our minds are like that water. When they are stirred by constant thinking and worrying, we see only fragments. But when they settle into stillness, something whole is revealed. And the Stoics, in their practical way, speak of the citadel of the mind, a fortress that cannot be conquered by external events. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This inner citadel is always available. We can retreat there at any moment. We do not need to travel to a distant monastery or wait for circumstances to be perfect. We need only to stop, to turn inward, and to remember. As we prepare for sleep tonight, we are engaging in this ancient practice. We are creating our own khalwa, our own zazen, our own porch. We are leaving the world behind not permanently, but for this sacred time of rest. We are setting down the burdens we have been carrying. We are releasing the tensions we have been holding. We are allowing ourselves to dissolve into the vast ocean of being that holds us all. This is not escapism. This is wisdom. To rest is not to give up. To sleep is not to be defeated. Rest is how we renew ourselves. Sleep is how we heal. And when we approach rest with the same reverence that the mystics brought to their practices, it becomes more than just the absence of activity. It becomes a doorway to the sacred. So tonight, as you feel your body settling, as you feel the day releasing its grip on you, remember that you are participating in something ancient and holy. You are joining the countless seekers across time who have discovered that peace is not found in the world, but in the silence that exists beneath the world. You are coming home to yourself, and in that homecoming, you touch something that has never been disturbed, never been diminished, never been lost. You touch the eternal presence that you are, the architecture of silence. There is a difference between quiet and silence. Quiet is the absence of external noise. You can be in a perfectly quiet room and still have no silence, because silence is not something that exists outside of you. Silence is an inner condition. It is what remains when the constant commentary of the mind grows still, when the endless analyzing and planning and judging finally pauses. And in that pause, something else emerges, something that has been there all along, waiting to be noticed. The architecture of silence is not built with walls of stone or wood. It is built with attention, with awareness, with the willingness to notice when the mind has wandered and to gently guide it back. Like any architecture, it requires both intention and skill. We do not stumble into silence by accident. We create the conditions for it. We make space for it. We invite it in. Think of a house for a moment. A well-designed house has different rooms for different purposes. There is a kitchen for preparing food, a bedroom for sleeping, a living room for gathering. Each space serves a particular function, and the boundaries between these spaces, the walls and doors, help us to engage fully in whatever activity that space is designed for. When we are in the bedroom, we are not cooking. When we are in the kitchen, we are not sleeping. The architecture supports the function. Our inner life needs the same kind of architecture. We need spaces within ourselves that are dedicated to particular states of being. A space for activity and engagement. A space for reflection and contemplation. And a space for rest and silence. But most of us have never built these inner rooms. Our mental space is like a studio apartment where everything happens in the same place. We work and worry and rest all in the same undifferentiated inner space. And because there are no boundaries, no clear transitions, we carry everything everywhere. We bring our work concerns into our rest time. We bring our anxieties into our moments of peace. We are never fully anywhere because we are always partially everywhere else. The practice of creating inner silence is the practice of building a room within yourself that is dedicated solely to rest. A sanctuary that the worries and demands of the world cannot enter. Not because we are escaping or avoiding, but because we recognize that we need this space. We need a place where we can set everything down and simply be. There was once a woman who lived in a busy city. Her days were filled with noise, traffic and sirens and construction and the constant hum of human activity. She longed for silence but believed it was impossible to find in such an environment. One day she met an old teacher who asked her, "Where's the noise?" She gestured to the window. "Out there, everywhere. It never stops." The teacher smiled. "And where does the noise exist for you?" The woman thought about this. "In my ears, I suppose. In my awareness." "Exactly," the teacher said. "The sounds exist in the external world, but the experience of noise exists only in your awareness. And awareness itself is silent. It is the space in which sounds are heard. If you can learn to rest in that awareness rather than being pulled along by each sound, you will find that silence was there all along, holding the noise. This teaching points to something profound. Silence is not the opposite of sound. Silence is what holds sound. It is the background, the container, the space within which all sounds arise and pass away. When we identify with the sounds, when we become caught up in them, we lose touch with the silence. But when we rest in awareness itself, we discover that silence is our true nature. We are not disturbed by sound. We are the undisturbed awareness that witnesses all sound. The same is true of thoughts. Most people believe that silence means having no thoughts. They try to force the mind to be blank, to push away every thought that arises. And this creates tremendous struggle. It is like trying to stop waves from moving across the surface of the ocean. The effort itself creates more agitation. But thoughts are not the enemy of silence. Thoughts are like sounds. They arise in awareness. They pass through awareness. And awareness itself, the space in which thoughts appear, is inherently silent. It is not troubled by the thoughts any more than the sky is troubled by clouds. So the practice is not to eliminate thoughts but to change our relationship to them. Instead of being caught up in the content of each thought, we learn to notice the space between thoughts. We learn to rest in the awareness that knows the thoughts rather than identifying as the thinker of the thoughts. This is subtle but transformative. When we are identified as the thinker, every thought feels personal, urgent, important. When we rest as awareness, thoughts become simply passing phenomena. They lose their stickiness. They lose their power to disturb our peace. There was a man who struggled terribly with an overactive mind. Every night when he lay down to sleep, his thoughts would race. Memories from the day, worries about tomorrow, imaginary conversations, plans and problems and endless commentary. He tried everything to quiet his mind, counting backward, focusing on his breath, repeating mantras. Nothing worked. The more he tried to stop the thoughts, the louder they became. Finally, exhausted and frustrated, he went to see a meditation teacher. "My mind will not be quiet," he said. "I cannot find silence no matter how hard I try." The teacher asked, "Who is it that is trying?" The man paused. "I am." "And who is it that notices the thoughts?" "I suppose I am." "And are these the same I?" The man sat with this question. After a long silence, he said slowly, No, the one who tries to quiet the thoughts is itself a thought, a sense of self that wants things to be different. But the one who notices the thoughts is not a thought. It is awareness itself. Now you are seeing clearly, the teacher said. From that day forward, the man approached his overactive mind differently. Instead of fighting the thoughts, he would simply notice them. Ah, a worried thought. Ah, planning thought. Ah, a memory. He did not try to push them away. He did not judge himself for having them. He simply noticed. And in the noticing, there was a small gap. A tiny space of awareness that was not caught up in the content. Over time, that gap began to widen. The thoughts continued to arise, but they no longer controlled him. He had found the silence that exists not in the absence of thoughts, but in the awareness that holds all thoughts. This is the first layer of the architecture of silence. Learning to rest in awareness rather than being lost in content. But there are other layers as well. There are the emotional layers. We carry so much emotion beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. Old hurts that never fully healed. Disappointments that we pushed aside. Fears that we have been avoiding. All of this emotional residue creates a kind of background noise. A subtle static that prevents us from experiencing true silence. The practice here is not to analyze or fix these feelings, but simply to allow them, to create space for them. When we resist our emotions, when we try to push them away or distract ourselves from them, they do not go anywhere. They simply go underground. They continue to influence us from the shadows. But when we are willing to feel them, to give them space to move through us, something shifts. The charge begins to dissipate. The old hurts begin to heal. Not because we did anything to them, but because we finally stopped resisting them. There was a teacher who would tell her students, "Your heart is like a house with many rooms. Some rooms you visit often. These are the familiar emotions, the ones you are comfortable with. But there are other rooms you avoid. Rooms where sadness lives. Rooms where fear lives. Rooms where grief and anger and shame make their home. You have locked these doors and thrown away the keys. You think you are protecting yourself. But these locked rooms are not silent. Behind the doors, the emotions are restless. They knock and call out. They drain your energy by the very fact of being locked away. True silence comes not from locking the doors, but from opening them. From visiting each room with kindness. From allowing what has been hidden to finally be seen and held. This is deep work. It is not the work of a single night. But we can begin right now. We can begin by simply noticing what we are feeling in this moment. Not the story about the feeling. Not the judgment about whether we should or should not feel this way. Just the raw texture of the emotion itself. Where do we feel it in the body? What is its quality? Is it heavy or light? Sharp or dull? Hot or cold? When we bring this kind of gentle, curious attention to our emotions, we are building the architecture of silence. We are creating space for all of ourselves to be present. And then there is the layer of belief. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are and how things should be. These stories create tremendous noise. We are constantly narrating our experience, interpreting, judging, comparing. This is good. That is bad. I should be further along. Why is this happening to me? The narrator never stops. And as long as we are identified with the narrator, we cannot find silence. We are too busy commenting on everything to simply experience what is. The practice here is to notice the narrator without believing everything it says. To recognize that the stories are just stories. They are interpretations, not facts. When we loosen our grip on the stories, when we hold them more lightly, we create space for silence. We create space for a more direct experience of reality, unfiltered by constant interpretation. One man described it this way. He said, "I used to believe that my thoughts were telling me the truth about reality. If I thought I was a failure, I believed I was a failure. If I thought the future would be terrible, I believed it would be terrible. My thoughts had absolute authority. But then I began to notice that my thoughts changed all the time. One day I would be confident. The next day I would be full of doubt. One moment I would be grateful. The next moment I would be resentful. If my thoughts were telling me the truth, then the truth would have to be constantly changing. And I realized that what was changing was not the truth but my interpretation. My thoughts were just one perspective among many. When I saw this, it was tremendously freeing. I could still hear the thoughts, but I did not have to believe them all. I could choose which ones to listen to and which ones to let pass by. This is the architecture of silence. Layer by layer, we create space. We learn to rest in awareness rather than being lost in thoughts. We allow our emotions to move through us rather than locking them away. We hold our beliefs more lightly rather than clinging to them as absolute truth. And in this spaciousness, silence naturally emerges. Not as something we create, but as something we uncover. It was there all along, beneath the noise. We simply had to stop adding to the noise long enough to notice. As you lie here tonight, you can begin to sense this silence. Not as an absence, but as a presence. Not as empty void, but as full spaciousness. It is the silence of awareness itself. The silence that holds all sounds, all thoughts, all emotions. You do not have to do anything to find it. It is already here. You need only to stop reaching for it and allow yourself to rest in it. Let the thoughts come and go like clouds across the sky. Let the emotions move through like weather. Let the sounds arise and pass away. And rest in the vast silence that holds it all. This is your true home. This is where you have always belonged. And tonight, you can simply rest here, held by a silence that has no beginning and no end. The body as sacred vessel. We have been taught to live in our heads, to value thinking over feeling, to trust the mind more than the body. And in this preference for the mental over the physical, we have lost touch with something essential. We have forgotten that the body is not just a vehicle that carries the mind around. The body is a sacred vessel. It is where our life actually happens, where we experience joy and pain, where we touch and are touched, where breath moves and heart beats and awareness dwells. When we prepare for sleep, we are not preparing the mind to rest. We are preparing the whole being. And this begins with the body, with allowing the body to release the tensions it has been holding, with giving permission for the muscles to soften, for the shoulders to drop, for the jaw to unclench, for the belly to relax. These releases are not just physical. They are energetic. They are emotional. They are spiritual. Because the body holds everything. Every stress, every unprocessed emotion, every moment of bracing against life. There is an old teaching that says the body never lies. The mind can convince itself of all kinds of things. It can rationalize and justify and explain away. But the body tells the truth. When we are anxious, the body knows. The chest tightens. The breath becomes shallow. The stomach clenches. When we are sad, the body knows. There is a heaviness, a slowness, a quality of collapse or withdrawal. When we are angry, the body knows. There is heat, tension, a readiness to fight or flee. Most of us have learned to override these bodily signals. We push through the fatigue. We ignore the tension. We numb ourselves to the discomfort. We live in a state of mild dissociation, where the mind is present but the body is forgotten. And then we wonder why we cannot sleep, why we cannot relax, why we feel disconnected from ourselves and from life. The path back to wholeness begins with coming home to the body, with listening to what it has to say, with honoring its needs and its wisdom. This is not always easy. For many of us, the body is associated with pain or shame or discomfort. We may have learned early that our bodies were not safe, that they could betray us or be violated, that they were something to be controlled or hidden or transcended. These experiences leave deep marks. They create a kind of exile from our own physical being. But healing is possible, and it begins with simple presence, with bringing kind awareness to the body exactly as it is, not trying to change it or fix it or make it different, simply being with it, feeling it from the inside. There was once a woman who had been at war with her body for as long as she could remember. She did not like how it looked, how it felt, how it moved through the world. Every time she saw her reflection, she felt a wave of disappointment. Every time she had to buy clothes, she felt shame. Every time someone complimented her, she dismissed it, certain they were just being polite. One day, she was walking by the ocean. It was early morning. The beach was empty. On impulse, she took off her shoes and walked into the water. The cold shocked her system, made her gasp, made her fully present. And in that moment of presence, something shifted. She became aware of her feet on the sandy bottom, her legs moving through the resistance of the water, her arms balancing her body, her heart pumping, her lungs breathing. For the first time in years, she was not thinking about her body. She was experiencing her body, being her body, and it was not terrible. It was alive. She stood there in the water for a long time. Waves moved around her. Birds called overhead. The sun climbed higher in the sky, and she kept feeling, kept being present, kept allowing herself to simply inhabit this form that she had spent so many years rejecting. When she finally walked back to shore, something had changed. Not her body, that was the same, but her relationship to her body. She had touched, if only briefly, a sense of gratitude. This body had carried her through so much. It had held her heart when it was breaking. It had walked her through difficult times. It had allowed her to embrace the people she loved. It was not perfect, but it was hers, and it was enough. This is the transformation that becomes possible when we stop fighting the body and start listening to it. When we stop seeing it as an object to be judged and start experiencing it as the very ground of our being. The body is not separate from our consciousness. It is where our consciousness lives. It is how we interface with the world. And when we are at home in our body, we are at home in the world. As you rest here now, you can begin to bring this quality of gentle presence to your own body. Start with the breath, not trying to change it, just noticing it, feeling the movement of air in and out, the rise and fall of the chest or belly, the sensation of breath moving through the nostrils. This is the body breathing itself. You do not have to do anything. It is already happening. You need only to notice. And now bring your awareness to your feet, however they are positioned, whatever they are resting on. Can you feel them? Not think about them, but feel them from the inside. There may be warmth or coolness, weight, contact with fabric or mattress, tingling or numbness. Whatever is there is perfect. You are not trying to create a particular sensation. You are simply noticing what is already present. This is the practice of coming home to the body, moment by moment, sensation by sensation. Let your awareness move slowly up through the legs, the calves, the knees, the thighs, feeling the weight of them, the temperature, any places of tension or holding. And as you notice tension, see if you can allow it to soften just a little. Not forcing, not straining, just inviting, offering the muscles permission to let go. They have been holding all day. They have been working. They are tired. It is okay to rest now. Move your awareness to your hips and pelvis. This is the center of the body, the place where the spine sits, where the legs connect. There can be a lot of holding here, a lot of tension that we are not even aware of. Just notice what is there and breathe into it. Imagine the breath moving down into this center, bringing space, bringing ease, letting everything settle. Now the belly and the low back. These areas hold so much. Emotion lives here. Fear and anxiety create tightness in the belly. Stress creates tension in the low back. As you bring your awareness here, you might notice discomfort. This is okay. You do not need to fix it. You do not need to make it go away. Simply acknowledge it. Yes, there is tightness here. Yes, there is discomfort. And meet it with kindness. Meet it the way you would meet a small child who is hurting. With tenderness, with compassion. Your body is not your enemy. It is carrying you through this life with such faithfulness. Let your awareness rise to your chest. Feel the heart beating. This heart has been beating since before you were born. It will beat until the moment you die. It does not ask for your permission. It does not require your management. It simply serves, faithfully, endlessly. Can you feel gratitude for this? For this heart that has never stopped loving you? That has never stopped keeping you alive? Feel the rise and fall of the breath in the chest, the expansion and contraction. There is a rhythm here, a natural rhythm that requires no effort. The body knows how to breathe. The body knows how to be. When we stop interfering, when we stop trying to control and manage, the body finds its own wisdom, its own balance, its own way back to peace. Now bring your awareness to your shoulders. For most people, this is where tension lives. We carry the weight of our worries on our shoulders, the burdens of responsibility, the stress of trying to hold everything together. Notice if your shoulders are raised, if there is tightness, and as you notice, let them drop. Just a little, just an inch. Feel the release, the softening. You do not have to hold so tight. You can let go. Let your awareness move down your arms, through the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, all the way to your hands. These hands have done so much today. They have typed and written and touched and held. They have worked. They are tired. Let them rest. Let the fingers uncurl. Let everything soften. These hands do not need to grasp right now. They do not need to hold on. They can simply rest, open and easy. Bring your awareness to your neck and throat. This is a vulnerable area. We protect it instinctively. And when we feel threatened or stressed, the muscles here tighten. The throat constricts. Notice if there is holding here, and see if you can soften it. Imagine breathing through your throat, opening it, making space. Your voice lives here, your expression, your truth. Let it rest now. Let everything settle. And now your face, the jaw, the eyes, the forehead. We hold so much tension in the face. The jaw clenches when we are stressed. The eyes strain from looking at screens. The forehead furrows with worry. Let it all soften now. Let the jaw hang loose. Let the eyes rest in their sockets, not looking at anything, just being. Let the forehead smooth. Let the whole face relax, like ice melting into water. Take a moment to feel your whole body at once, from the feet all the way to the crown of the head. This is your sacred vessel, your temple, the place where you live. It is not perfect. It has its aches and pains, its limitations, its history of injury and illness, but it is yours, and it has brought you to this moment, this breath, this now. Can you feel appreciation for it? Can you thank it for all it has done, for all it continues to do? In many spiritual traditions, the body is seen as the vehicle of awakening. It is not something to be transcended or escaped. It is the very ground where liberation happens. The Buddha became enlightened in a body. Jesus walked and taught and healed in a body. The mystics who touched the divine did so through their physical form, not in spite of it. Your body is not an obstacle to peace. It is the doorway. So as you rest here tonight, honor this body. Listen to it. Feel it. Be grateful for it. And let it guide you into the deep rest it needs. The body knows how to sleep. It knows how to heal. When you stop resisting it and start trusting it, it will take you exactly where you need to go. Into the darkness, into the quiet, into the sacred rest that renews all things. Let yourself be held by this body. Let yourself be carried by it. And let yourself rest in the mystery of being alive, here, now, in this precious physical form. The mind's journey from motion to stillness. The mind is like a river. Sometimes it flows gently, meandering through quiet valleys. Other times it rushes and tumbles over rocks, crashing and foaming, impossible to navigate. When we lie down to sleep, we want the mind to be like a calm lake, still and clear. But more often it is like rapids, churning, restless, refusing to settle. And the harder we try to force it to be still, the more turbulent it becomes. This is one of the great paradoxes of the spiritual path. We cannot make the mind be still through force of will. We cannot bully it into silence. The very effort to control the mind is itself a form of mental activity. Creates more thinking, not less. More agitation, not more peace. So what are we to do? How do we guide the mind from its natural state of motion into the stillness that sleep requires? The ancient teachers discovered that the secret is not in suppression but in understanding. When we understand the nature of the mind, when we see how it works and why it does what it does, we can work with it instead of against it. We can guide it gently rather than forcing it. We can create the conditions for stillness to emerge naturally rather than trying to manufacture it. The first thing to understand is that thinking is not the enemy. The mind was designed to think. It is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Thoughts arise. This is natural. This is normal. The problem is not that we have thoughts. The problem is that we become so identified with our thoughts that we lose touch with the awareness that knows the thoughts. We become the thinker instead of the witness. And when we are completely identified as the thinker, we are at the mercy of whatever thoughts arise. We have no distance, no perspective, no choice. But there is another way. We can learn to be the witness, to stand back slightly from the stream of thoughts and watch them pass. This does not mean we stop thinking. It means we stop being exclusively identified with the thinking. We remember that we are the awareness that knows the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. And this simple shift changes everything. When we are the witness, thoughts lose their compulsive quality. They become optional rather than obligatory. They pass through awareness like clouds across the sky, and we are the sky, vast and unchanging, holding it all. There was a monk who struggled greatly with his busy mind. Every time he sat down to meditate, his thoughts would multiply. They seemed to come from everywhere at once. Memories, fantasies, plans, worries. It was overwhelming. One day his teacher asked him, "When you sit, how many thoughts do you have?" "Thousands," the monk said. "More than I can count." "And who is counting them?" the teacher asked. The monk paused. "I am." "Exactly," the teacher said. "You are counting the thoughts, which means you are not the thoughts. You are the one who is aware of the thoughts. You are the counter, not the counted. If you can remember this, even for a moment, you will find the peace you seek." This teaching points to a profound truth. No matter how many thoughts are arising, there is something in us that is not thinking. There is an awareness that knows the thoughts are happening, and that awareness is inherently peaceful. It is not disturbed by the content of the thoughts any more than a mirror is disturbed by the images it reflects. The mirror remains clear and still regardless of what appears in it. And our awareness is like that mirror. Thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fall. But the awareness that knows them all remains unchanged. So the practice is not to stop thinking, but to shift our identity from the thinker to the awareness, from the content to the container, from the waves to the ocean. And we do this through a simple but powerful practice. We notice. Each time we become aware that we are thinking, we have already stepped back from complete identification. We have already become the witness, if only for a moment. And in that moment, there is a gap, a space, a tiny opening in the constant stream of thought. And in that opening, we can rest. But the mind is clever. It will turn even this practice into more thinking. It will start to judge the thoughts. "I should not be thinking about this. This is a stupid thought. Why am I so distracted?" And then we are caught again, caught in thinking about our thinking. This is why the practice requires gentleness. We do not judge ourselves for thinking. We do not make it a problem. We simply notice, thinking, and we return to the present moment, to the breath, to the body, to the simple fact of being here now. The Zen masters have a beautiful phrase for this. They call it just sitting. Not sitting and trying to stop thoughts. Not sitting and striving for enlightenment. Just sitting, complete in itself. When we are truly just sitting, or just lying here preparing for sleep, we are not caught in the content of our experience. We are simply present to it. The thoughts come and go. The sensations arise and pass. The sounds happen and fade. And we are here witnessing it all, not trying to change anything, not trying to be anywhere else. Just here, just now, just this. There is another aspect of the mind that we must understand if we want to find rest. The mind is future-oriented by nature. It is always planning, preparing, anticipating. This is how it kept our ancestors alive. By thinking ahead, by preparing for threats, by imagining what might go wrong and planning how to avoid it. This capacity for future thinking is not bad. It has its place. But when it becomes our default mode, when we are always living in tomorrow instead of today, we lose touch with the present moment. and the present moment is the only place where peace can be found. When we lie down to sleep, the mind often goes into overdrive. It starts reviewing the day. What did I do wrong? What did I forget? What do I need to remember for tomorrow? And then it starts rehearsing the future. What will happen tomorrow? What if this goes wrong? What if that does not work out? This is the mind doing its job, trying to keep us safe, trying to help us prepare. But it is not helping us sleep. It is keeping us awake with its endless planning and worrying. The way to work with this is not to shut down the planning mind, but to reassure it, to let it know that there will be time for planning, that we will address everything that needs to be addressed. But not now. Now is the time for rest. Now is the time to let everything go and trust that tomorrow will take care of itself. This requires a kind of faith, a trust that we do not have to control everything, that we can release our grip and things will be okay. There was a woman who had tremendous difficulty sleeping. Her mind would race with worries. She would lie awake for hours, thinking about all the things that could go wrong. Finally, she developed a practice. Before bed, she would write down everything she was worried about, every concern, every task that needed to be done. She would write it all down, and then she would tell herself, I have acknowledged these concerns. I have written them down so I will not forget them. Now I am giving myself permission to set them aside until tomorrow. Tomorrow I will pick them up again if I need to, but for now I am putting them down. And she would imagine literally setting down a heavy pack, feeling the weight lift from her shoulders, feeling her body relax. This simple practice changed everything for her. Not because the worries went away. They were still there, but she had found a way to acknowledge them without being consumed by them. This points to something important. The mind needs to feel heard. It needs to know that its concerns are being taken seriously. When we try to suppress our worries, when we tell ourselves we should not think about them, the mind pushes back. It gets louder, more insistent. But when we acknowledge the concerns, when we say, yes, I see you, I hear you, thank you for trying to protect me, I will attend to this, but not now, the mind can relax, can let go, trusts that it will have its time, that nothing important will be forgotten. And in that trust, it can finally be quiet. Now let us talk about the quality of attention that supports the mind in its journey from motion to stillness. Most of the time, our attention is sharp and focused. We are concentrating on tasks, solving problems, analyzing information. This kind of attention is active, directed, intentional. It serves us well during the day, but it is not the kind of attention that allows for rest. For sleep, we need a different quality of attention. Softer, more receptive, more allowing. Think of the difference between a spotlight and ambient light. A spotlight is focused and bright. It illuminates one thing intensely while leaving everything else in darkness. This is daytime attention. But ambient light is soft and diffuse. It illuminates everything gently, equally. Nothing is highlighted. Nothing is excluded. This is the quality of attention we need for sleep. We are not focusing on anything in particular. We are simply aware, present, open to whatever is here without grasping at it or pushing it away. The breath can help us cultivate this quality of attention. When we focus on the breath, we are not trying to control it or change it. We are simply feeling it, riding along with it. The breath is always in the present moment. It is happening now, always now, never in the past or the future. So when we rest our attention on the breath, we are anchoring ourselves in the present. We are giving the mind something to rest on that is always available, always here, always now. But even this can become effortful if we are not careful. We can start to concentrate too hard on the breath, to strain after it, and then it becomes another task, another thing to do, another way we are not quite doing it right. So the instruction is to be with the breath lightly, like a butterfly resting on a flower, barely touching, completely present but not grasping, feeling the breath without forcing the attention, allowing the awareness to be so gentle, so soft, that it begins to merge with the breath, until there is no longer someone watching the breath. There is just breathing, just awareness, just this. As you rest here now, let your attention soften. Let it become diffuse and gentle. You do not need to focus on anything in particular. You can simply be aware. Aware of the body lying here. Aware of the breath moving. Aware of sounds in the room or outside. Aware of thoughts as they pass through, but not attaching to any of it. Not following any particular thread. Just allowing everything to be as it is. This is the mind at rest. Not blank, not empty, but at ease with whatever is present. And notice what happens when you stop trying to control the mind. When you stop fighting with it or trying to force it to be different. There is a natural settling, like sediment in water that has been shaken. When we stop shaking the jar, the sediment begins to sink. The water begins to clear. It happens by itself. We do not have to do anything. We simply have to stop interfering. Stop adding more agitation. And the mind's natural clarity begins to emerge. This is the great secret that the meditation masters discovered. The mind does not need to be fixed or improved. It needs to be left alone. When we stop manipulating it, stop judging it, stop trying to make it into something it is not, it naturally returns to its original state, which is clarity, spaciousness, peace. This is not something we create. It is something we uncover, something that has been here all along, waiting beneath the noise. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, remember that you do not have to fight with your mind. You do not have to make it be still. You simply have to stop adding fuel to the fire of thinking. Stop engaging with every thought that arises. Stop following each worry down its rabbit hole. When you notice you are thinking, simply acknowledge it. Thinking, and return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to this moment. And trust that the mind knows how to rest. It knows how to be still. You just have to get out of its way and let it do what it naturally wants to do, which is to settle, to quiet, to rest in the vast silence that is its true home. The heart's surrender. There is a place deeper than the mind, deeper than thought and analysis and all our careful reasoning. It is the place where we feel, where we love and grieve and hope and fear. The ancients called it the heart. Not the physical organ that pumps blood, though that is connected, but the emotional and spiritual center, the place where we are most vulnerable, most human, most alive. When we prepare for sleep, we must attend to the heart, because the heart carries things that the mind does not know about, old wounds that never fully healed, disappointments that we pushed aside, losses that we never properly grieved. The heart holds all of this. And when we lie down in the darkness, when the distractions of the day finally fall away, the heart speaks, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in cries. It asks to be heard. It asks to be held. Most of us have learned to override the heart, to ignore its messages, to push through the feelings and focus on what needs to be done. This is how we survive in a world that demands constant productivity, constant performance. But the cost is high. When we ignore the heart, it does not go quiet. It goes underground, continues to speak, but from the shadows, in anxiety, in restlessness, in the vague sense that something is not quite right even when everything seems to be fine on the surface. The invitation tonight is to listen to the heart, to give it the attention it deserves, to allow whatever is there to simply be there without trying to fix it or change it or make it go away. This is not easy. We are so afraid of our own feelings, afraid that if we let ourselves feel them fully, we will be overwhelmed. We will fall apart. We will never recover. But this fear, while understandable, is not based in truth. Feelings, no matter how intense, are not dangerous. They are just feelings. Energy moving through the body. Waves on the ocean of awareness. They rise. They crest. They fall. And if we allow them to move, they will pass. It is only when we resist them, when we try to hold them back or push them away, that they become stuck, that they cause suffering. There was a man who carried a deep sadness. He could not name where it came from. It had been with him as long as he could remember. Sometimes it was barely noticeable, a faint background hum. Other times it would swell into something almost unbearable. He tried everything to make it go away. He stayed busy. He drank. He threw himself into work and relationships and hobbies. anything to avoid feeling the sadness. But it never left. It only grew heavier. One night, exhausted from running, he finally stopped. He lay in bed, and instead of pushing the sadness away, he turned toward it. He let himself feel it fully, and it was terrifying at first. The weight of it, the depth of it. He felt as though he might drown in it. But he stayed. He breathed. He kept feeling. And slowly, something began to shift. The sadness was still there, but he realized it was not trying to destroy him. It was trying to tell him something. It was grief. Old grief that had never been allowed to move. Grief for losses he had never acknowledged. For parts of himself he had abandoned. For love he had never received. As he felt it, as he allowed it to move through him, something released. Not all at once, but gradually, over time, the sadness began to lighten. It was no longer his enemy. It was a messenger. And when he finally listened to the message, he could let it go. This is what happens when we have the courage to meet the heart with openness. We discover that what we have been avoiding is not as terrible as we feared. We discover that we are strong enough to feel whatever needs to be felt. We discover that, on the other side of surrender, there is not destruction but freedom. The freedom that comes from no longer carrying what we were never meant to carry. But surrender is not the same as giving up. This is an important distinction. Giving up is passive. It is defeat. It is resignation. Surrender is active. It is a conscious choice. It is the wisdom to recognize what we cannot control and the courage to let it go. When we surrender to the heart, we are not abandoning ourselves. We are honoring ourselves. We are saying, yes, this feeling is here. It is valid. It is real. I do not need to understand it or fix it. I just need to allow it. The Sufi mystics speak of surrender as the ultimate spiritual practice. They use the Arabic word taslim, which means to submit, to yield, to let go of the illusion of control. This is not weakness. It is profound strength. It takes great courage to surrender, to open the clenched fist, to lay down the burden, to say, I cannot do this alone. I need help. I need grace. I need something larger than myself to carry me. In the Christian mystical tradition, there is a practice called prayer of the heart. It is not the prayer of words or petitions. It is the prayer of simply resting in the presence of the divine, offering everything, holding nothing back. It is a complete surrender of the small self into something vast and loving and infinitely compassionate. The mystics who practiced this prayer reported a profound peace, not because their circumstances changed, but because they stopped fighting. They stopped trying to control. They surrendered into the arms of grace. And in that surrender, they found themselves held. You do not have to be religious to practice this kind of surrender. You do not have to believe in God or grace or anything outside yourself. You can simply surrender to the moment, to what is, to the reality of your experience right here, right now. This is a radical act. In a world that tells us to always be striving, always improving, always reaching for more, to simply be with what is feels revolutionary. But it is also deeply restful. When we stop fighting reality, when we stop insisting that things should be different than they are, we can finally relax. We can finally rest. As you lie here tonight, bring to mind anything that you are carrying in your heart. Any grief, any regret, any longing or disappointment or hurt. Do not push it away. Do not tell yourself you should be over it by now. Simply acknowledge it. Yes, this is here. Yes, this is part of my experience. And then see if you can soften around it. See if you can hold it the way you would hold a crying child. With tenderness, with compassion, not trying to make it stop crying, just being present to its pain. Your heart has been so brave. It has kept loving even when love brought pain. It has kept hoping even when hope was disappointed. It has kept opening even when it was safer to close. Can you feel gratitude for this? For the courage of your own heart? For its unwillingness to give up on beauty and connection and meaning, even in the face of so much difficulty? And now, can you offer your heart some rest? Can you tell it that it does not have to work so hard tonight? That it does not have to protect or defend or figure anything out? That it can simply be held? If there is someone or something that represents love and safety for you, imagine resting in those arms. Imagine being completely supported, completely safe, nothing required of you, nothing expected, just this gentle holding, this unconditional care. There is an ancient practice of forgiveness that can help prepare the heart for rest. It is not about condoning harm or pretending that painful things did not happen. It is about releasing the burden of carrying those wounds forever, about choosing freedom over the weight of resentment. You can begin by bringing to mind someone who has hurt you. It does not have to be a major hurt. Even small disappointments and slights can create heaviness in the heart. Picture this person, and then silently say to them, "I forgive you, not because what you did was okay, but because I do not want to carry this pain anymore. I release you. I release myself." You may not feel the forgiveness immediately. That is okay. The practice is not about manufacturing a feeling. It is about planting a seed, about creating the intention to let go, even if the actual release takes time. Some wounds are deep. They need to be honored, not rushed. But the intention to forgive is itself a gift to your heart. It is a message that says, you do not have to keep carrying this. You deserve to be free. And then, just as important, turn this forgiveness toward yourself. Bring to mind something you have done that you regret. Some mistake, some failure, some moment when you were not your best self. And offer yourself the same compassion you would offer to someone you love. I forgive you. You were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. You are not your mistakes. You are so much more than your worst moments. I forgive you. I release you. Feel the lightness that comes with this release, the unburdening. You do not have to be perfect to be worthy of rest. You do not have to have everything figured out. You do not have to earn the right to peace. You are allowed to rest simply because you are alive, simply because you are here, simply because your heart has been beating faithfully all day, all your life, asking for nothing but your presence. There is a beautiful teaching from the Buddhist tradition about metta, or loving kindness. The practice begins with offering kindness to oneself. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. These simple phrases, repeated with sincerity, begin to soften the heart. They counter the harsh inner critic that so many of us carry. They create a space of gentleness and care. And from this foundation of self-compassion, we can extend kindness outward. To those we love, to those we struggle with, to all beings everywhere. Tonight, you can offer these phrases to yourself as you prepare for sleep. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I rest deeply. May I wake refreshed and whole. Feel the warmth of these words, the care in them. This is the heart speaking to itself with tenderness. This is love turning inward, offering healing to the one who needs it most. The journey from heartache to peace is not a straight line. There will be nights when the feelings are too strong, when the grief or fear or loneliness feels overwhelming. This is okay. You are not doing it wrong. These are the nights when you simply need to be held, to reach out for support, to remember that you are not alone in this, that every human being has walked through the valley of the heart's darkness, and every human being has found their way back to the light. But there will also be nights like tonight, nights when you can feel the softening, the opening, the possibility of letting go. These are the nights when the heart remembers its own resilience, its own capacity to heal. These are the nights when you touch the truth that you are stronger than you know, more capable of love than you believe, more deserving of peace than you allow yourself to receive. So let yourself receive it now. Let yourself be loved. Let yourself be held. Let your heart finally rest in the arms of grace. And know that this rest is not weakness. It is the deepest wisdom. It is coming home to the truth of who you are, a beloved being, worthy of every kindness, every care, every moment of peace, sacred darkness and the night. We live in a culture that has declared war on darkness. We light up the night with streetlights and screens. We fill every moment of silence with noise. We have forgotten that darkness is not the enemy. Darkness is a teacher, a friend, a necessary counterpart to the light. Without darkness, there can be no rest. Without night, there can be no renewal. The ancients knew this. They honored the darkness as sacred. They understood that in the dark, certain things become possible that cannot happen in the light. Think of a seed planted in the earth. It must spend time in darkness. In that darkness, invisible to the eye, something miraculous happens. The seed breaks open. Roots extend downward. A small shoot reaches upward. All of this happens in the dark. If we dug up the seed to check on its progress, we would kill it. The darkness is not something to be endured until the plant can reach the light. The darkness is essential. It is where the transformation happens, where the new life begins. The same is true for us. We need darkness. We need night. We need times when we cannot see, when we cannot know what is happening, when we must simply trust that something essential is unfolding beneath the surface of our awareness. Sleep is this kind of darkness. When we sleep, we let go of conscious control. We surrender to the mystery. We allow ourselves to be transformed by processes we do not understand and cannot manage. This is not easy for those of us who want to be in control, who want to know what is happening at all times. But it is necessary. The night has always been associated with the feminine principle in spiritual traditions. The moon rather than the sun. The womb rather than the seed. The receptive rather than the active. This is not about gender. It is about a quality of being. A way of relating to life that is about receiving rather than doing. About allowing rather than forcing. About trusting rather than controlling. Our culture, particularly in the modern West, has become dangerously imbalanced toward the masculine principle. Always doing, always producing, always striving. We have lost touch with the wisdom of the feminine. The wisdom that knows how to rest, how to receive, how to allow life to move through us rather than constantly trying to make life happen. When we honor the night, when we allow ourselves to truly rest in darkness, we are reconnecting with this feminine wisdom. We are remembering that we do not have to do everything, that we are held by something larger, that we can trust the process even when we cannot see the outcome. This is a profound healing for those of us who have spent our lives trying to be in control, trying to make everything happen through force of will. The night invites us to let go, to trust, to receive. There was a woman who was terrified of the dark. As a child, she had experienced trauma at night. The darkness had become associated with danger, with vulnerability, with things that could hurt her. As an adult, she kept lights on all through the house. She avoided going out at night. She filled her evenings with television and internet, anything to keep the darkness at bay. But the fear was exhausting. It was controlling her life. Finally, with the help of a therapist, she began to work with her fear. She started small, sitting in a dimly lit room for a few minutes, then turning off more lights, then sitting in complete darkness for short periods. It was terrifying at first. Her heart would race. Her breathing would quicken, but she stayed with it, and gradually something began to shift. She discovered that the darkness itself was not dangerous. What was dangerous was what had happened to her in the darkness. But that was in the past. It was not happening now. Now, in the darkness, she was safe. She was alone with herself, with her breath, with her heartbeat, with the simple fact of being alive. And in this darkness, something unexpected happened. She began to feel a quality of peace that she had never experienced in the light. The darkness became a sanctuary, a place where she could rest from the demands of the visible world, where she did not have to perform or present or be anything other than herself. The darkness that had been her enemy became her friend, her teacher, her refuge. This transformation is available to all of us. We do not have to be traumatized by the dark to benefit from changing our relationship to it. Even if our fear is mild, even if it is just a preference for light, we can learn to appreciate what the darkness offers. The poets and mystics have always known this. They speak of the dark night of the soul not as a curse but as a blessing in disguise. It is in our darkest moments that we are forced to let go of the surface and go deep. It is when we cannot see the way forward that we must learn to trust something other than our eyes. It is when all our usual strategies fail that we discover a strength we did not know we had. The Christian mystic St. John of the Cross wrote about this in his poem Dark Night of the Soul. He described how the soul must pass through darkness on its journey to union with God. But this darkness is not abandonment. It is not punishment. It is purification. It is the stripping away of everything that is not essential, everything that is not true. In the darkness, we cannot rely on our usual defenses, our accomplishments, our self-image, our carefully constructed identity. All of that falls away, and what remains is simply what we are: naked, vulnerable, real. And in that naked vulnerability, we can finally encounter the divine, not as an idea, not as a belief, but as a living presence that has been there all along, waiting for us to stop hiding. Sleep is a miniature version of this dark night. Every night we practice dying. We let go of the world. We release our grip on consciousness. We allow ourselves to dissolve into the unknown. And every morning we are reborn. We return to the light, to the world, to ourselves. But we are not quite the same. Something has happened in the darkness. Some healing, some reorganizing, some deep repair that could not happen while we were awake and active and in control. Science is beginning to understand some of what happens during sleep. The brain clears out toxins. Memories are consolidated. Emotions are processed. The immune system is strengthened. All of this happens while we are unconscious, while we are in the dark. We do nothing to make it happen. We simply allow it. We trust the wisdom of the body, the wisdom of the darkness, to do what needs to be done. This is a powerful teaching for our waking lives as well. There are things that cannot be fixed through effort. There are healings that only happen when we stop trying and start trusting. When we surrender to the darkness and allow it to do its work. The indigenous peoples around the world have always honored the night. They have ceremonies that take place in darkness. Vision quests where seekers spend days in the dark, fasting and praying, waiting for guidance. Sweat lodges where participants sit in pitch blackness, allowing the heat and the dark to strip away everything unnecessary. These are not primitive practices. They are profound technologies of transformation. They recognize that the dark is not empty. It is full of possibility, full of wisdom, full of the sacred. In many traditions, the greatest teachings are said to come in darkness. The Buddha reached enlightenment sitting beneath a tree through the night. Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane in the hours before dawn. The Prophet Muhammad received his first revelation in a dark cave. Moses encountered the burning bush on a mountain, in a moment described as thick darkness. These are not coincidences. There is something about the darkness that opens us, that makes us permeable to the sacred in a way that the bright light of day does not allow. Perhaps it is because in the darkness our usual ways of knowing are suspended. We cannot rely on sight. We cannot analyze or categorize or control what we cannot see. We are thrown back on other faculties: intuition, feeling, faith. We must learn to navigate by an inner light rather than an outer one. And in this navigation, we discover capacities we did not know we had. We discover that we are more than our thinking mind, more than our visible accomplishments, more than anything that can be seen in the light of day. As you prepare for sleep tonight, see if you can soften your resistance to the darkness. See if you can welcome it as a friend rather than fearing it as an enemy. The darkness is not nothing. It is the womb of creation. It is the fertile void from which all things emerge. It is the rest that makes activity possible, the silence that makes sound meaningful, the space that allows form to exist. Without darkness, we would have no depth, no mystery, no rest. We would burn out in the relentless glare of constant light. So let yourself sink into the darkness now. Let it hold you. Let it be a blanket that covers you, a mother's arms that rock you, a deep well into which you can descend. There is nothing to fear here. In this darkness, you are safe. You are held. You are home. The darkness knows what you need. It knows how to heal you, how to restore you, how to prepare you for tomorrow's light. All you have to do is trust it. All you have to do is let go and allow the darkness to do what it has been doing since the beginning of time, transforming, renewing, bringing forth new life from the invisible depths. And when you wake in the morning, you will remember something important. You will remember that you survived the night, that you trusted the darkness and it carried you through, that you let go of control and you were held. This is not a small thing. This is practice for every ending, every loss, every moment when we must release what we cannot keep and trust that something new will emerge. Sleep teaches us how to die and be reborn, how to surrender and be renewed, how to trust the darkness and find our way back to the light. This is sacred knowledge, ancient wisdom, and it is yours every single night if you are willing to receive it. The practice of letting go. We spend our days accumulating, gathering experiences, collecting thoughts and feelings and impressions, building plans, carrying responsibilities. By the time evening comes, we are loaded down with the weight of everything we have picked up throughout the day. And then we wonder why we cannot sleep. We are trying to rest while still carrying the full load. We have not learned the art of letting go. This is perhaps the most essential skill for deep rest. The ability to set things down, to release our grip, to trust that we can pick up what we need tomorrow. But tonight we need empty hands. Letting go is not the same as not caring. This is an important distinction. Some people hear the instruction to let go and they think it means to become passive, indifferent, detached in a cold way. But this is not what the wise teachers mean when they speak of letting go. They mean releasing the tight grip of attachment, the desperate need for things to be a certain way, the illusion that we can control outcomes if we just try hard enough. Letting go is about recognizing the difference between what we can influence and what we cannot, and having the wisdom to release what lies beyond our control. There is a famous teaching story about two monks who were walking through the forest. They came to a river where a young woman was standing, unable to cross because the current was too strong. One of the monks, despite his vow never to touch a woman, picked her up and carried her across. Then he set her down and the two monks continued on their way. Hours later, the other monk said, "I cannot believe you did that. You know we are not supposed to touch women." The first monk replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This is the question that each of us must ask ourselves. What are we still carrying that we could have set down hours ago? Days ago? Years ago? What are we holding on to that no longer serves us? What conversations are we replaying in our minds long after they have ended? What hurts are we nursing long after the wound could have healed? What plans are we clutching even when circumstances have made them impossible? The practice of letting go begins with awareness. We must first notice what we are holding before we can release it. And this noticing itself requires a kind of gentle tension. We are not looking for what we are doing wrong so we can judge ourselves. We are simply becoming aware of the load we are carrying. The mental load, the emotional load, the spiritual load, all of it. Some of what we are carrying is necessary. Some of it is our responsibility. But much of it, if we are honest, is not. Much of it we picked up out of habit or fear or a misguided sense of duty. And we can put it down. A woman once described her experience of learning to let go. She said, "I used to think I was indispensable. At work, at home, in all my relationships. I believed that if I did not take care of everything, it would all fall apart. So I carried the weight of everyone's problems. I worried about everyone's needs. I took responsibility for everyone's happiness. And I was exhausted, completely depleted. I could not sleep because even at night, my mind was still trying to solve everyone's problems. Then one day I was too sick to do anything. I had to stay in bed. And you know what happened? Everything continued. People figured things out. Problems got solved. The world did not end. And I realized that I had been carrying a burden that was never mine to carry. I had been trying to do what only life itself can do, which is to hold and guide and care for all things. When I finally understood this, I could let go. Not of my responsibilities. I still showed up for what was truly mine. But I let go of the illusion that I had to control everything. And in that letting go, I found a peace I had not felt in years. This is the liberation that comes with letting go. We discover that we are not as essential to the functioning of the universe as we thought. And this discovery, far from being depressing, is actually tremendously freeing. We are part of something much larger than ourselves. We have our role to play, yes, but we are not the whole show. We can do our part and then rest. We can give what we can give and then trust that others will give what they can give. We can influence what lies within our circle of influence and release what lies beyond it. The Stoic philosophers had a powerful practice for distinguishing between what we can control and what we cannot. They taught that we can control our own thoughts, our own intentions, our own actions, but we cannot control outcomes. We cannot control other people. We cannot control the weather or the economy or the past or much of the future. When we try to control what lies outside our power, we create suffering. When we focus our energy on what lies within our power and release everything else, we find peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you cannot control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone." This is radical wisdom for our time. We live in an age of constant information, constant news, constant awareness of problems and crises happening all over the world. And we feel we must have an opinion about all of it. We must be outraged. We must take a stand. We must do something. But the truth is, most of what fills our awareness is beyond our control. We cannot fix it. We cannot change it. And carrying the weight of it all is destroying us. This does not mean we should not care. It does not mean we should ignore injustice or suffering. It means we should direct our energy wisely. We should act where we can act. We should give where we can give. And we should release the burden of carrying what we cannot change. This is not coldness. This is wisdom. This is the difference between compassion and codependence, between engagement and enmeshment, between caring deeply and being consumed. As you prepare for sleep tonight, you can practice this discernment. Ask yourself, what am I carrying that is truly mine to carry? What are my actual responsibilities? And what am I carrying out of habit or guilt or fear? What can I set down, at least for tonight? What can I trust will still be there tomorrow if I need to pick it up again? This is not about being irresponsible. It is about being realistic, about recognizing our human limits, about honoring our need for rest. There is a powerful visualization that can help with this practice. Imagine that you are carrying a heavy backpack. All day long, you have been putting things into this pack. Worries, tasks, responsibilities, other people's problems, regrets, plans, all of it weighing you down. Now imagine setting this pack on the ground, not throwing it away, just setting it down, feeling the weight lift from your shoulders, feeling your body straighten as the burden is released. And now imagine opening the pack and looking inside. What do you see? What have you been carrying? One by one, take each item out and look at it. Some things you will recognize as necessary. These are your true responsibilities. The people you care for, the work you are called to do. These items you can set aside with care, knowing you will pick them up again tomorrow. But other things, as you examine them, you will see are not yours. They are burdens you picked up that you were never meant to carry. Other people's opinions of you, expectations that do not align with your values, worries about things you cannot control, old hurts that you have been carrying for years. Take these items and imagine releasing them, letting them dissolve, handing them over to something larger than yourself, trusting that they will be held, but not by you. Not tonight. Feel the lightness that comes with this release. Feel how much easier it is to breathe, how much softer your body becomes. This is the natural state. This is how we are meant to be. Not weighed down, not crushed by burdens, but light, easeful, free to respond to life as it comes rather than bracing against everything we think might happen. There is a teaching from the Tao Te Ching that speaks to this. It says, "In the pursuit of learning, every day something is acquired. In the pursuit of Tao, every day something is dropped." We are so accustomed to adding, to acquiring, to gaining more knowledge, more skills, more possessions, more accomplishments. But the spiritual path is often about subtraction, about letting go, about discovering what remains when we stop adding more. What remains is essence. What remains is truth. What remains is the simple fact of being alive, aware, present. This is enough. It has always been enough. We just forgot because we were too busy carrying things that blocked our view. A man once told a story about his grandfather. The grandfather had lived through great hardship. He had lost his home in a war, lost family members, lost nearly everything he owned. He came to a new country with almost nothing. And yet, this man was one of the most peaceful people his grandson had ever known. One day the grandson asked him, "How do you do it? How do you stay so peaceful when you have been through so much?" The grandfather smiled. "I learned early that I could lose everything I owned and still be whole, because what I am is not what I have. What I am cannot be taken away. Once you know this, really know it, you can hold everything lightly. You can enjoy what comes and release what goes. You are no longer afraid of loss because you know that what matters most can never be lost." This is the deepest letting go. Not just releasing the small things, the daily worries and tensions, but releasing our grip on our very identity, our sense of who we are, our accomplishments and failures, our stories about ourselves. All of it held lightly, all of it seen as temporary, as conditional, as not who we truly are. Who we truly are is the awareness that knows all of this, the presence that remains no matter what comes or goes. And that presence, that essence, needs nothing, lacks nothing, is complete just as it is. As you rest here now, see if you can touch this. See if you can feel, even for a moment, what it would be like to need nothing, to lack nothing, to be complete just as you are. Not because you have achieved something or acquired something or become someone special, but simply because you exist, because awareness is here, because life is moving through you. This is your true nature. This is what you are beneath all the layers of conditioning and identity and story. And when you rest in this, even briefly, you taste a freedom that nothing in the external world can give you. A peace that does not depend on circumstances. A joy that needs no reason. This is the ultimate letting go. The letting go of the small self that thinks it must hold everything together. The letting go of the illusion of control. The letting go of the fear that without our constant vigilance, everything will fall apart. When we let go at this deepest level, we discover what the mystics have always known. That we are held. That we have always been held. By a love that has no conditions. By a presence that has no boundaries. By a peace that has no opposite. We can rest in this. We can surrender into this. We can let go of everything else and simply be held by what we have always been held by. And in that being held, we find the rest we have been seeking. The rest that restores, that heals, that makes us whole again. Return to wholeness. We have traveled together through many rooms tonight. We have explored the sacred silence that the mystics discovered. We have learned about the architecture of inner stillness. We have come home to the body as a sacred vessel. We have witnessed the mind's journey from motion to rest. We have allowed the heart to surrender its burdens. We have honored the darkness as teacher and friend. And we have practiced the art of letting go. All of this has been preparation. Preparation for what happens now. The return to wholeness. The remembering of what we have always been. Wholeness is not something we achieve. It is something we recognize. We have never been broken, no matter how many pieces we felt ourselves shatter into. We have never been separate, no matter how alone we felt. We have never been lost, no matter how far we wandered. These experiences were real. The pain was real. The confusion was real. But they were experiences happening within wholeness, not evidence that wholeness was lost. The ocean is not broken when waves crash upon the shore. The sky is not divided when clouds pass through it. And you are not diminished by the experiences you have had. You are the vast space within which all experiences arise and pass away. This recognition, this remembering of wholeness, is what the spiritual traditions call awakening. But it is not awakening to something new. It is awakening from something false. It is waking up from the dream that we are small, separate, insufficient. It is opening our eyes and seeing what has always been true, that we are not isolated fragments struggling to survive in a hostile universe. We are expressions of the universe itself. We are the universe becoming aware of itself, looking at itself, experiencing itself, coming to know itself through these brief, precious forms we inhabit. When we rest in this recognition, even for a moment, everything changes. Not the circumstances of our lives. Those may remain exactly as they are. But our relationship to those circumstances transforms. We are no longer fighting reality. We are no longer at war with what is. We are participating in the great unfolding of life with a sense of wonder and reverence rather than fear and resistance. The mystic Meister Eckhart said, "The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me." This is the recognition of wholeness. There is no separation. There is only the one seeing, the one being, the one life expressing itself in infinite forms. You are that life. You have always been that life. And tonight, as you prepare to rest, you can let everything else fall away and simply be what you are. Whole, complete, belonging to the universe that gave you birth. Sleep is a return to this wholeness. Every night, we practice letting go of our small identity and dissolving into something larger. We release the boundaries of self and merge with the oceanic awareness that is our deepest nature. We do this without thinking about it, without trying. The body and the unconscious know how to return home. They know how to let go of the day's tensions and sink into the rest that heals and restores. We need only to stop interfering, to stop holding on, to trust the process that has carried us through every night of our lives. There is a beautiful teaching from the Upanishads, the ancient sacred texts of India. It describes what happens when we sleep. It says that in deep sleep, we return to Brahman, to the absolute, to pure consciousness itself. All the boundaries dissolve. All the distinctions disappear. There is no longer a you and a me, a self and other, a subject and object. There is only the one, the unchanging awareness, the eternal presence. And in that merging, we are restored. We are renewed. We are reminded at the deepest level of our being that we are not separate, that we never have been. Of course, we do not usually remember this when we wake. We return to our familiar identity. We pick up where we left off. But something has happened in the depths. Some healing, some renewal, some remembering that happens below the level of conscious awareness. This is why sleep is so essential. It is not just physical restoration, though. That is important. It is spiritual restoration. It is the nightly return to source, the pilgrimage back to the ground of being, the coming home to what we truly are. As you feel your body settling now, as you feel the edges beginning to blur, you are beginning this journey. You are beginning the return, and you can go consciously. You can bring awareness to this threshold between waking and sleeping. You can feel yourself letting go, releasing, dissolving. This is not frightening. This is coming home. This is what you have done every night of your life. But tonight, you are doing it with awareness. You are witnessing the return to wholeness. Let your breath become very soft now. So soft that you can barely tell if you are breathing or being breathed. Let your body become very heavy. So heavy that it seems to sink into the surface beneath it. Let your awareness become very spacious. So spacious that you cannot find its boundaries. Where do you end and the room begin? Where does the room end and the world begin? Where does the world end and the universe begin? There are no clear boundaries. Everything is interpenetrating. Everything is connected. You are not separate from any of it. Feel yourself as part of the earth. The same elements that form mountains and rivers and trees form your body. The same energy that moves the stars moves in you. The same consciousness that looks out from the eyes of every being looks out from your eyes. You are not an isolated fragment. You are a wave on an infinite ocean, and the ocean is you. The wave and the ocean are not two. They are one movement, one being, one life. Rest in this. Rest in the knowing that you are held by something much larger than yourself. You do not have to understand it. You do not have to believe it. You can simply feel it. Feel the support beneath you. Feel the air around you. Feel the life moving through you. You are part of all of this. You belong to all of this. You are all of this. There is nowhere you need to go. Nothing you need to become. You are already home. You have always been home. And tonight you can rest in this homecoming. You can let yourself be held by the wholeness that you are. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. What you really love, beneath all the surface desires and fears, is this wholeness, this peace, this sense of belonging. This is what every soul longs for. Not the temporary pleasures that come and go. Not the accomplishments that fade with time. But this eternal presence, this unchanging awareness, this love that has no conditions and no end. You can trust this pull. You can follow it. It will take you home. And when you wake tomorrow, you will return to the world of form. You will pick up your identity again. You will have tasks to do and roles to play. This is not wrong. This is life. This is how consciousness explores itself. Through these temporary forms. Through these brief lifetimes. But you will carry with you, perhaps just beneath the surface of awareness, the memory of this return. The memory of wholeness. And that memory will sustain you. It will remind you, in moments of difficulty, that you are more than what you appear to be. That you are held by something vast and loving and eternal. That you are never alone. That you are never lost. That you are always, always home. So rest now, deeply, completely, without reservation. You have practiced the art of leaving the world behind. You have created sacred silence within yourself. You have honored your body and quieted your mind and opened your heart. You have welcomed the darkness as a friend. You have let go of what you do not need to carry. And now you can simply be, simply rest, simply allow the healing that happens in sleep to do its work. Trust it. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Trust life itself. You are safe. You are loved. You are whole. And you always have been. May your sleep be deep and restful. May your dreams be gentle. May you wake refreshed, renewed, remembering at the deepest level who you truly are. May you carry this peace into tomorrow and all the tomorrows that follow. May you know in every cell of your being that you are a beloved expression of the infinite. That you matter, that your presence here makes a difference, that you are needed exactly as you are. And may you rest tonight in the arms of the wholeness that has been holding you since before you were born and will continue holding you long after this body returns to the earth. Sleep well, dear one. Sleep deeply. Sleep in peace. The world will be here when you wake. But for now, there is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to be, just this, just rest. Just the sacred silence of a soul coming home. Let go now. Let everything go. And fall gently, softly, sweetly into the darkness that knows how to hold you. Into the mystery that knows how to heal you. Into the love that has no beginning and no end. Good night. And thank you for walking this path with me. May we meet again in the morning light. Both of us renewed by the journey through the healing darkness of this sacred night.